some other sections prohibited, anybody trying to force anything down the throat of a consumer against the provisions of this statute. So this particular one now is Section 119 of the Consumers Protection Act. So you cannot compel, force, or hold a consumer to ransom and say you must buy this other product. So since you are buying wig from me, you must also buy your this beautiful spec now. You must also buy the spectacle, your eyeglasses.
Not done.
You must buy your earrings. You must buy everything. We sell everything here. So you can't compel anybody. So the consumer is entitled to choose. Even you yourself, the consumer is entitled to say, I'm not even going to buy from you. So it's only a matter of persuasion. It's only a matter of trying to show them the good sides of the things you are trying to offer for them to patronize. So it can only be by voluntary, decision of the client, and not that you now make it mandatory that since we have now entered this estate, you have now entered trouble. You don't have to do any choice of your own anymore. They now become your masters. They are now the ones dictating every bit of what you do.
Your personal Lord and Savior.
Yes. So the law does not allow that. Okay. So the one that is similar to this, I won't go to number 7. I'll skip and go to number 8.
Okay.
Just because of time, because I want to cover the ones that I feel are so important for people to know. Because I've seen, the reason I'm trying to say these things is because I notice that people are not even aware of these things.
Exactly.
People are not aware. Nobody's talking about them. You hardly see anybody talking about consumer protection, except the Consumer Protection Commission themselves. Apart from them, you don't really see anybody protecting or projecting. And even the commission themselves, they're just at the federal level, they need more hands. In fact, states need to even have their equivalent of that so that we can have more
even
activities.
Consumers are not even aware of their rights.
Most consumers are not aware. So the next one is the right to choose and examine, products.
Okay.
The right to choose. The right to examine before making the decision, before making payment, before sealing the deal. So similar to what we just discussed about people being free, having the right to, to not be compelled, to not be held ransom, that you must, having bought this, or since you want to buy this, you must also buy the other things. So right to choose suppliers is also the same way that the consumer also has. The consumer has the right to choose his supplier. The consumer also has the right to choose what product he or she wants. So when a consumer comes to some people will say, when you came, this was the one we recommended, but this you chose the other one. So maybe someone came to buy, let's say there's Ghanaian wig, there's an Ivorian wig. Okay. You as the seller, you as the undertaking, you are trying to encourage the buyer, the consumer in this case, buy the Ghanaian one. But of course, maybe the Ghanaian one is of higher price, or maybe even of a not too pleasant taste to the consumer. The consumer now prefers the Ivorian version. What the law says is that the consumer is entitled to choose. And the consumer is entitled to take a look, check, observe and in fact, scrutinize it with his eyes or with her eyes to be sure about the quality of what he wants to buy. So, and it is within the rights of the consumer to observe, to check and cross-check, and to choose the one they prefer. So you cannot say that, you are having issues with this one, because that was the one you chose. If you had chosen the one if you had taken the one we gave you, you offered all of them.
Of course.
Yes, you wouldn't have had issues if we had bought the one we said you should pay. Possibly, maybe the Ghanaian version is 50,000 naira. the other one is 25,000 naira. You as the undertaking, the supplier or whatever role you occupy in that case, you have more profit possibly on the Ghanaian product. But you are still the same person offering both of them. So the fact that this person opted for the Ivorian product does not mean that the value should be lesser. Unless if that is already stated upfront. If it is already stated in advance that, oh, see, this one, the quality of this one is lesser. This is what this one can handle. This is what this other one can handle. This one can handle something bigger. This one can only handle something smaller. So, but for the disclosed value, quality, and standard that you have disclosed about the Ivorian one, you are bound by that standard. So you cannot say, if you had purchased the other one, if this person has bought the one he or she chose, then you are bound to the standard of that thing that the person has chosen. So if the thing proves to be highly defective and not meeting that disclosed and discussed standard, then you have not met up with the standard of this law. So the law is saying that the consumer is entitled to inspect, to look, to scrutinize, and choose what he or she wants. So you cannot compel them, you cannot force them to choose against their will. That is section 121. Now I want to go to section 122, which is the right of the consumer to return, goods. There are instances where the law allows someone who has already paid for something
to return
it. Yes, so there are instances for that. And there are those that are already statutorily, the law has already spelled them out. So once the law spells them out like that, there's nothing you can do about it. It is the law. So one of them is if the product is highly defective. Defective products, unsafe products. So you are not entitled to say to have a way of brandishing, polishing a product, and slyly and cleverly and fraudulently, just manage and pass it across. And then, so once this person has paid and has taken it home, then you feel you're already justified. You're already clear. Yes, you're already clear. So you don't owe the person any obligation anymore. No, the law will not permit such a thing, because that would just be a license to fraud, license to cheating, license to oppression, and even poor products and services, flooding the entire market. So what this law is saying is that your products have to be good enough. They have to be free of defects, and they have to be safe. If your products are not safe, if the products are not of merchantable quality, then you cannot. You're not going to be justified. You're not going to be entitled to say that the person cannot return it. So, if the product is defective, the consumer is entitled to return it. How do you determine defects? Defects are, okay, maybe I should even explain what defects are. A defect is a shortcoming. When something falls short of the standard, when something is insufficient in making or quality, when something is below the estimated, known, disclosed standard, when something cannot suit its purpose, it is said to be defective. So, and it's also similar. So when you say something is not merchantable, so we say in the consumer protection that your goods, your services have to be merchantable. So being merchantable means that the thing has to be suitable. It has to be fit for its known purpose. It has to be fit for its known purpose. So, for instance, the camera is working here now. If you go to buy a camera, and upon bringing it home or bringing it to your studio, you try to test run it. Maybe they even probably test run it for you over there. But on your bringing it home without you malhandling it, you try to, set it, and everything becomes blurry. You can't select the kind of color or resolution that you professionally would have wanted to do, things that that are the norms in photography, videography, whatever other terms in your field. So it means that thing is not meeting that purpose for which a camera is made. So when a camera fails to perform the role of a camera, and for it to perform it up to the normal basic standard of that kind of camera, then it is defective. It is not merchantable. Now, in contract, when something is defective and not merchantable, that's when it does not suit its purpose. It is enforceable under contract. But there are also some exceptional situations where it might actually even seem to fulfill its purpose, but it has another problem that is unsafe, that makes it unsafe for use. Possibly, like for instance, now this camera is working fine. You are getting the kind of resolution you want to get from it, but all of a sudden the thing just explodes and blinds you.
It's shocking, or what do they call it?
So it becomes unsafe, dangerous. You can't touch it. You can't touch it. Or you get electrocuted. So all those things. So it becomes unsafe. So in that case, it is no longer a matter of contract. It now becomes a tort. It now becomes a tort is a civil wrong that is different from, it's not a contract per se. So, and it's usually something that you cannot really reduce to what we call liquidated damages, or liquidated sums of money. So in which case, usually what the court does is the court grants damages. Damages in this case is not the normal meaning people know damages to mean. Damages in law mean compensation that the court awards to someone when someone else has wronged you, when someone else has trampled on your rights. So that is damages. So in layman's term, you can just say compensation. Let's go to the next right, which is the right to fair dealings. The right to fair dealings. It's almost similar to some of the things we have mentioned before, but it's also still different. This one is under section 124. Now, what this one is saying is there are some things that we normally, in general law of contract, we call them vitiating factors. Vitiating factors, you're a guru in the contract. So, vitiating factors are factors that will nullify or that will make a contract to fail. Let's just say things that make a contract to fail. Yes, that defeat things that defeat the essence of a contract. Okay, so one of them. So what this section has done is to itemize many of such things. So one of them is that you don't force a consumer. So you don't use force. You don't use you don't trick a consumer. You don't employ undue influence. So now you don't apply duress. Duress is similar to force. So you don't apply pressure. You must not harass. And the interesting thing is, in fact, you must not employ unfair tactics. And these words I'm picking are actually the way the law states them. The law is saying that you must not employ intimidation. You must not use force. You must not use duress. You must not use undue influence. You must not use pressure. You must not use harassment. You must not use unfair tactics. And these are broad concepts in law. So what these things mean is that a consumer must be allowed to make informed decisions and to give informed consent. So the acceptance. So if you say you are selling a particular product to me or service to me, you have brandished it, you have spoken so rosily about it, you have mentioned it does this, it does that, and all those things. Fine. After saying all those, what the law says is that I am entitled to make, informed decision. That's uncompelled, voluntary decision. So, yes, the product may be so wonderful, but what the law is saying is that you must not mandate, compel, pressurize. Maybe, for instance, you say, if you don't buy this, okay, you are the landlord. As the landlord, you say, if the landlord has a shop in front of the house. The landlord has a shop in front of the house where he sells some products. So, if you don't buy from me, then I will issue you quit notice.
For what?
I'll serve you with quit notice. So, that's what the law is saying. That is harassment. You are harassing the person. You are pressurizing the person. You are mandating the person to buy that particular thing from you. So the law is saying that the consumer is entitled to fair dealings. Fair dealings, and then you must not engage in dealings that will shortchange the consumer. It has to be, fair. Everything you do about it has to be fair, devoid of intimidation, devoid of using your influence over the person. Maybe, okay, you introduced me as your boss, and then I now use that influence to, to sway you, to cajole you, to, softly mandate you to act in a particular manner, or to buy or to subscribe to a particular thing, even against your conviction. Against your conviction, against what you have ordinarily wanted to do. So the law is against it. So the law says that the consumer is entitled to, fair dealings. Fair dealings. And okay, let me just quickly mention some things under this category, where that's section 130, is that rights concerning quality and safety. Going deeper now, the law says that, one, the service has to be timely. It has to be timely and complete. So, timely performance and completion of the transaction or the service. So, if someone gives you, let's say, a room, you are a bricklayer, someone gives you, let's say, a bungalow for you to plaster a bungalow for him. What the law is saying is that you have to make your service timely. So timely performance and completion. So what is the average stretch of time it takes to plaster such a building? So if the normal timing is like within 2 weeks, you ought to have been done plastering a 2-bedroom bungalow. But 6 months have passed and you are still not done. That's what the law is saying. So the law is saying that the consumer is entitled to timely performance and completion of the service. The next one is you must perform the services in a manner and quality that reasonable persons are generally entitled to expect. So that same bricklayer now is expected to, if you see a house plastered by a bricklayer, it should look like something plastered by a bricklayer and not look like something plastered by a carpenter. So there are some there are some qualities and standards that a reasonable person will just be able to reasonably expect from such a thing. So the law says that the consumer is entitled to you rendering and performing that service, to that standard that a reasonable person will reasonably expect from such a service. Okay, the next one is that the product has to be free from defects in terms of use, delivery, and installation of the goods. So if your goods are good, but the installation is bad, it will still not serve the best interest, the purpose and the best interest of the consumer. So the law is saying that the sale, the delivery, and the installation of those things have to be okay and have to, be fair and be devoid of defects. The next one there is that you must return. This is very important. You must return the consumer's product in the same standard that you met them. Let's say this beautiful office now. If you contract a painter to come and work on this place, and at the end of the day, by the time she says it's done, you come in, you see perforations everywhere. Perforations that were not even there before. He has made some big holes. He has damaged a number of things here. So that's what the law is saying. Or let's say, okay, he even did the painting well, but he has caused some damages to the property itself. What the law is saying is that the person is bound to return or to redeliver the office to the owner the same way, or at least in a way, in a standard not lesser than it was when you came in. So if you cannot improve on it, do not mess it up, do not devalue it, do not damage it to a consumer where you know clearly that your rights have been breached. These things we have mentioned, you see that the person has the undertaking, that's the supplier, manufacturer, whoever you are dealing with on the other side, has not lived up to expectation. These are the things you can do. The first one is that you can contact that same person and say, this thing you did not meet my expectation. It is highly defective. It is unsafe. It is this. It is that. So, or you tell the person, okay, some were good, some were bad.
Thank you, sir, for doing justice to the rights of the consumers. Now, we want to know what are the remedies available when these rights are being infringed upon.
Okay, there are criminal remedies, there are civil remedies. So there are remedies you can get by using the police to arrest someone, for instance, when there's a criminal violation. For instance, when the court, when the statute says if someone does a particular thing, then the person will be liable to so years of imprisonment or so sum of fine. So when you see such a thing, what it means is that it is a crime. That thing is a crime. So in this case, there are some stipulations that the law has made. So the law has said that where someone contravenes any of these provisions, what the law has done is to criminalize and also make provision for civil rights. So there are criminal penalties and there are civil penalties. So if there's any contravention, but a lot of people don't know that these things are there. If anybody contravenes, like you display goods without stating their prices on them, it is a crime. So
they can be sued for it.
Yes. In fact, they can be prosecuted criminally.
Wow.
Yes, they can be prosecuted, and what the law says is that anybody that does such a thing, that's Section 155, whoever does such will be liable to, that's the criminal aspect now, will be liable to imprisonment for 5 years.
5 years.
5 whole years. Or a fine of 10 million naira.
Wow.
So even if the goods are not even worth 1 million naira, the penalty, the fine is 10 million naira. Or both. A 5 years term imprison and the fine. So the law says either this, or even both of them. So that's what the law says. So, and for companies also, so it's not only individuals. For companies that contravene the provisions of this act, that's the Federal Consumers Competition and Consumers Protection Act 2018, whoever violates any of those provisions of this law, whether you knew the provision or not, ignorance of the law is not an excuse
at all.
So the law says that if you contravene any of these provisions, the person will be liable to this. Now, for a company that also contravenes such a thing, what the law says is that the company will be liable to a fine of 100 million naira. Now, for a company, and for the directors, so 3 layers of offenses: offense by an individual, offense by a company. Now, the third people are directors of the company. Million. Yes. Directors of that company that are in violation. Each of the directors will be subject to that first one, which is 10 million naira, or 5 years imprisonment, or both. So a company may end up having all their directors imprisoned and have this kind of hefty fines imposed on them by the court if they contravene any of this. So if a company or an individual is found to be compelling, intimidating, forcing someone to buy a particular property, or holding them to ransom, not allowing them to choose their supplier, or not allowing them to return defective goods, working in violation of these things, or serving defective products, turning out defective products, and all those things. What the law is saying is that these penalties will apply. That is for the criminal aspect. This one, the law can also say go and carry out that thing. There was a full agreement to that effect. This person has paid for it. The court mandates the person to go carry it out, and the court still now grants compensation in favor of the consumer and against the supplier.
Thank you so much for the words of encouragement. From the crew of Your Lawyer's Corner with Mo, we want to appreciate you with this token. Just as accept this as a token of our appreciation for coming on the show.
Thank you. This is highly appreciated. More blessing, more grace, more courage, more wisdom. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. And we do hope that when next we call on you, sir, you would do like this.
You're not too well.
Thank you so much, sir. And with this, we have come to the end of today's episode of Your Lawyer's Corner with Mo. Before we go, I would like to remind you, don't just get mad. Get a lawyer. Do have a lovely day. Bye.